be aware that our calls are recorded for training and monitoring purposes. Press 1 if you are under 18 or if you are calling in relation to someone who is under 18. Otherwise, please wait to be connected to a call handler. Sarah, how can I help?
Oh, hi Sarah. Is this the Crisis Mental Health Helpline?
Yes, the crisis line, yeah.
Is that for Surrey and Borders Partnership?
Yeah, it's just for Surrey.
Ah, right, okay.
And some of the borders.
Ah, okay. So my name's Lucas Laws, and I come under Surrey and Borders Partnership.
Okay.
And today I was in Epsom, and I was experiencing significant memory difficulties and amnesia.
Okay. Yeah, and that was in Epsom when you were in there.
Yeah, I'm in Epsom now. I'm at home.
Yeah, okay.
And I phoned the JPC, which is the nickname for the Joseph Palmer Centre. I don't know if you know them, CMHRS Elmbridge.
Yeah.
And the only person available was the receptionist.
Right.
And I've been with Surrey and Borders Partnership since 2009, talking to them about amnesia and disassociation and things like that. And they've always overruled it. And the receptionist was saying to me that, to the best of her knowledge, is the receptionist at the Joseph Palmer Centre, she isn't aware of them having anything to do with the treatment of amnesia and memory difficulties, nor
Right.
disassociation.
Yeah.
However, I've been under Surrey and Borders Partnership, and if you look up my details now, I can give you my patient number if you want.
Have you got in the number you're calling from? Is that your mobile number?
Yes, ending in
Okay,
2399.
Yeah, and is your date of birth the 4th of April
1973.
Okay, let me just select. Bear with me a minute.
And you should have me down as flat 7 Willow House, Epsom, Surrey, KT19.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my NHS number is 436-788-1849.
Yeah, that's it. Yes.
So can you just read from your point of view what it says on my record?
As in what, diagnosis or?
Yeah, what I'm experiencing and what my illness is.
Have a look. What could I go on to? Just bear with me a minute. I can't think of that. Let me just look.
So some of the words you might find, like Dr. Fernandez has described it as a psychosis, distinct psychotic symptoms throughout my medical records, which will remain in keeping with the criteria for a diagnosis of delusional disorder. And this is written by Graham Warren, the chief executive, who asked the associate medical director to review my records. She agreed. And he also went on to say, despite the presence of our psychotic illness, that's not to say you might also be experiencing other concurrent symptoms and disorders, as it is possible to experience comorbid illnesses.
Okay, and have you spoken to them about this?
Well, I raised a formal NHS complaint with Graham. Then I wrote to him 2 years later, and he's just written back on this letter I was talking about. And at the end, he said, I do appreciate you're hoping for the diagnosis of a psychotic illness to be removed from your records. However, we would unfortunately be unable to do so in this situation, and I'm therefore sorry for the ongoing distress that this may cause you.
Yeah.
And what happens is I thought, well, I'll try the DVLA, see what they say, because they had to take my my driving license away on medical grounds. So I phoned them up, and the DVLA said to me, I said, I think it goes back to about 2017 when my driving license was revoked. What was the medical reasons? And she said, well, the medical reasons were PTSD and dementia. And she said that went back to
Yes.
2009, which, if you look at my medical record, is when it starts with Surrey and Borders Partnership.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find a way back to it. Hold on. So let me see if I can zoom it up a bit more. So 24th of February 2016 I've got here.
Yeah.
Blake Ward. There was progress notes on about Blake Ward, ATS.
Was that when I was on an adjustment disorder when I was there for a year without medication?
It might well be. I'm just trying to read it quickly.
Because I was homeless, they couldn't discharge me until I went to Matham Road,
Oh, right, okay.
Richmond Fellowship,
Yeah.
the following year, and they discharged me as an adjustment disorder. And then I met someone called Dr. Lucy Leonard, who's now left the organisation. She did a neurological report and said I suffered a dissociative fugue in 2017. But if you look at 2017, I was put on a community treatment order for having a very serious psychotic illness. I was put on the highest dose of aripiprazole antipsychotic medication of 300 milligrams for 7 years. Yeah. And although she said, from her point of view, she spent 16 hours with me over the period of 3 months with me and said it was a dissociative fugue, Dr. Bahirathan, who was my current Elmbridge CMHRS consultant, said I had a fixed delusional disorder, and my story about having a dissociative fugue was an elaborate delusional belief story, especially related to complex trauma in my childhood. So he perceived it completely the opposite way to how Dr. Lucy Leonard did.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to go through your notes a bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the reason for the call this evening, Lucas?
Well, nobody knows of anywhere I can go to receive help and support for what I'm suffering with today, which is what Dr. Lucy Leonard from Elmbridge CMHS, the former consultant psychologist there, said in her neurology report on the 29th of September 2009. She said, Mr. Laws complained of significant memory difficulties, amnesia, and Mandy, my partner's here today, and she can just tell you now what that was like in Epsom today.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very forgetful to the point where we're smoking at the moment, and he believed that he had put the tobacco in his back pocket and must have dropped it on the bus, and he hadn't even put it in his pocket. It was at home. That's just one example. But there's multiple times where he just forgets everything.
So at the end of Lucy Leonard's report in 2020, she says, Mr. Laws, after doing a memory and IQ test using a scientific basis, she said, Mr. Laws is experiencing a global impairment of his memory. His performance is not what we'd expect given his current intellectual functioning, and suggests he is suffering from a specific and global memory difficulty. That said, he appears to be functioning very well, etc., etc., and then mentioned poor memory. That was written at the JPC, where I spoke to the receptionist today, who said, to the best of her knowledge, they don't have anything to do with amnesia or dissociation and so forth. So, from your point of view, if you read my notes and I said to you that I'm suffering from my delusional disorder, I'm getting psychotic symptoms, caused with comorbid illnesses, I've got an elaborate delusional belief system, and my partner said that that my experience of emotional, I'm quoting Graham Wirham here, my experience of emotional, physical and sexual abuse was false, and was, rather than it was false, that it was likely to have been a major contributing factor to me developing a psychotic illness. If I'd phoned you up and said I was in crisis today and you saw me as someone with a psychotic illness, would there be something you could do to help me?
I think, well, it all depends. I mean, to be quite honest with you, we do go by some of the records that if you have been diagnosed for this, that, and the other. But it also depends, like, as regards to can you keep yourself safe? Are you able to keep safe? Have you got any suicidal thoughts? No suicidal thoughts? If you're under a team, what's brought it on? What's your trigger? So we don't really diagnose people on this telephone line.
Yeah, exactly. But so when I phoned up and I said I was experiencing memory problems, what was your reaction? Did you think, oh, this is someone we need to help because he's having trouble remembering what he's doing and that's making it difficult for him to go shopping and get out and about and function day to day?
No, we would talk about it. Wouldn't make a split decision. Oh, it's because of this, this, and this. You talk it through. You see why. Unfortunately, the crisis line here is to support people that are going through a crisis and to signpost people to other services which may help them at the time. So, we would go through what happened with you today. What did you think you forgot, or did you think you picked it up but didn't pick it up? And stuff like that. I mean, no one's here to diagnose you.
Oh, right, okay.
We can't do that unless a doctor sees you, or a consultant, or someone that's medically trained in that sort of field to diagnose people. We're not there to diagnose people.
Yeah. So what's happened is I've been under a lot of distress, ongoing distress, as Graham Wareham, the chief executive, records, due to having a fixed delusional disorder. And over the last 4 months, it's caused me not to sort of have distress and pain anymore, but really after 16 years of it, to start reflecting on how the system works and how there's sort of cracks. And the DVLA say from 2009 that it's PTSD and dementia, but Surrey and Borders Partnership say it's psychotic illness for 16 years. And Graham said that can't be changed, so therefore it will remain in place for the rest of my life until I die, etc., etc. And it's in that dynamic that I've been reasoning and reflecting to the point where my brain is disassociating. I'm finding it hard to concentrate, and then I'm becoming forgetful. And it's coming through like in the experience when it was a nice sunny day. I'd finished the work I was doing. I'd been up for 2 days working on something, trying to communicate with an MP who wants to take some of my work I've been doing with artificial intelligence and write to the Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology. So I was trying to do some of that work, which is very complex. And that relates to sort of how AI might be used to sort of help people see sort of a bit more of a humanistic view of a patient rather than a black and white, someone's definitely this way or that way based on an electronic records management system. Anyway, we took a break, went to Epsom, and because I've been thinking so much for 4 months, I'm experiencing memory problems because although I don't get distressed in the same way as I was traumatised 10 years ago or 15 years ago from the diagnosis whilst going through complex PTSD and everything, now it's more of Graham sent me a letter, and he sent it to me on the, he sent a letter to me on the 17th of April 2025. He's the first person to ever write to me in 16 years of corresponding and writing to people. Everyone's ignored me, and Graham's written a letter saying information regarding AI and my diagnosis, and he's answered those 2 questions. And so for example, from the 17th of April to today, which is the 12th of May, I've been thinking, how do I communicate with Graham? And when I came back this evening, I just started phoning different telephone numbers and asking what it said on different people's record systems to see what they would say. And everyone, the DVLA, Mind, NAPAT, the National Association for People abused in childhood. I haven't got through to the DWP. I want to go through to PIP and see why they've got me on mobility, because if you met me, I look physically well, but they assess me based on the fact that I have disassociated stupors, and if you know what that is, it's when the brain puts a brake on the body, shuts down, and I had one in January, and I was induced into a coma, woke up out of a coma in intensive care, and rather take the usual route of being taken on a trolley through another ward to recover for, say, a month. Mandy, who you just heard, my partner, picked me up after 2 days. We walked downstairs, got into a friend's car, and drove back to the house we're in now in Epsom. And I've been here since January, trying to explain and work out what my consultants, that like Dr. Donahue and Dr. Bahirathan, say is delusional, and try and resolve it and express it to them, know it's something that's happened. Because Dr. Donahue and Dr. Bahirathan haven't seen me like Mandy has in accident and emergency in an induced coma, having suffered a well, when the ambulance came here on this bed here, they thought it was a catatonic state, didn't they?
Yeah, they thought
or a stroke.
Or it was either a stroke or a catatonic state. They reduced it down to. And then they ruled out stroke, and basically it was a dissociative stupor.
And then by the time we went to see that nurse who was caring for me when I was in the coma, we met her the other day at the critical care clinic.
She totally agreed with you.
That it was a dissociative stupor.
Yes.
And then earlier to that, we went to see neurology because Dr. Donahue, who's now discharged me back to the GP, he sent me to neurology back at St Heliers, where I was in intensive care. And Dr. Oliver Cousins said that I had no neurological problems whatsoever, and his view it was dissociative. And another thing is, I remember waking up out of the coma and watching the rounds of the doctors and consultants in a huddle coming to my bed every now and then or every day. And on one occasion, one of the consultants waited for all the other consultants to go, and he turned round to me and he said, sometimes medicine doesn't have an answer for things. And when I met the nurse the other day, who had been my nurse for the couple of days when I was in the 24 hours when I'd been in the coma and wasn't aware that she was there, and then I met her and realised who she was, she said it's kind of like a new discovery. You know, there's no research, there's no pathway. I remember Dr. Bahirathan saying one time in a community treatment order review that my dad came along, and my dad was saying, look, I've been caught on a big fish hook and the hook needs to be removed. And rather than let Dr. Bahirathan speak or respond to my dad, I interjected and I said, yes, but I've been experiencing a dissociative fugue. And Dr. Bahirathan's words were, yes, I know, but the nice path, there's no nice pathway. You know, I'm National Institute for Clinical Excellence or something. No, there's no pathway for that, and I want to treat you, so I'm going to continue on fixed delusional disorder so that I can treat you with aripiprazole, etc., etc., etc. So that's kind of been my journey through the medical system, and the less it sort of distressed me emotionally, it sort of become more and more of a reflection. And the amount of reflection I've had in the last 4 months since I was in accident and emergency to this call here today, I've recorded like 500 gigabytes of video on my computer with a artificial intelligence, talking to it about all these different things, inputting all the different information and reasoning and everything, which has been interesting, fascinating work. I've written about 2 million words. I sent a massive box to Graham Wareham, which caused him to write to me, and I sent the same box with all my workings and all my letters and books and my thoughts on paper to them, to 12 different people. And so I've done an awful lot of work, but one of the outcomes of it is that I disassociate and I have memory problems. So I've got to find a way to communicate, but I don't know if there's any organisation or anyone I can go and see who can help me sort of put into words the pieces of information that are in the neurology department, the bits of information which are in the intensive care department, in the DVLA department, in all these different pockets which form sort of a whole view rather than a single view on the electronic patient record system that the associate medical director read for Graham to give his opinion that my record would never be changed. So I don't know if that makes sense, but basically I want to be seen for who I am. and when I'm not, it disconnects me from my family and my friends. It's painful. And when I hear from Graham that it's never going to be removed from my record, and however we would unfortunately be unable to do so in this situation, and we're therefore sorry for the ongoing distress this may cause, it's the ongoing distress that causes me to reason and try and find a way to communicate that what I'm saying is authentic, is an authentic experience. But I don't have the words or way of putting it into a 2-page letter like Graham has to me. So that's why I'm experiencing sort of memory problems and disassociation in Epsom today.
Yeah, because it sounds like you've got a lot going on at the moment as well.
Yeah.
From that.
Plus, we're going through another system that works in a funny way. Is, you know, ESA and Universal Credit?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah, so we were on PIP and Universal Credit. Sorry, PIP and ESA. And then Mandy got a letter to migrate to Universal Credit at the time that I moved in with her in Epsom. So we phoned the DWP ESA team and they said, although I haven't received the letter to join Mandy and we'll do a joint submission for Universal Credit, we went to the Citizens Advice Bureau in Epsom. They said that we'd received the same amount as we were on ESA as we would on Universal Credit. We phoned the ESA team and they said yes, that'd be correct. We phoned the Universal Credit Migration team and said yes, that would happen. And we started that journey at the start of April. We're now on the 12th of May. We've got no money for food or anything. They've calculated something like we are entitled together as a combined joint income of about £2,000. But we have deductions of about roughly the same but slightly less, and our total amount that we will receive combined, this is for 2 people, instead of ASA is Universal Credit to live on. They're going to pay it in 2 days' time on the 14th of May for a month. It's £187 they're going to give us for 2 people to live on for a month. Because I used to have money and also work under ESA 2 days a week, I used to have higher outgoings. And one of the outgoings is my monthly payment for my Lloyds Bank personal loan, which is £50. Yeah. So when the £50 comes off that £187, because I can't cancel it, so I have to pay it. We've got 137, so call that 140, divided by 2, which is £70 each to live on for and pay bills and everything else for a month. At the same time, we've got a cat and we've got to take it to the vet. We will get PIP eventually, that will come through. But like my salary that got paid at the start of the month, that's now gone into pay for everything that we haven't received through Universal Credit. So that's all swallowed up and my bank account's at 0.
Bills and everything.
Plus bills. And then at the same time, what I was going to say, today Maddie tried to resolve it by phoning Universal Credit. They said I can no longer work and earn £784 a month as I could under Universal Credit. As a couple, not as me individually, as a couple, we can only now earn £411. So therefore, if I continue with my employer, I can only earn each month £206, say £205 a month for 2 days' work, which is probably about £2.50 or £5 an hour. I work as a senior software engineer 2 days a week for a company who do artificial intelligence.
And your rate should be £300 a day.
And, it should be about £800 a day.
Yeah.
But because I have memory problems and there's no support system, I can't go back to work because I can't always cope like in Epsom today. And I need support and adjustments there. And I need a doctor to be able to write from a psychiatric point of view to say, look, Lucas Laws is hyper intelligent, has, according to Lucy Leonard in this neurological report, is in the top 0.1% of the population for perceptual reasoning. That's why Volue employ him. He's working with artificial intelligence in the visual and audio spectrum range, and the type of work he's doing is interesting the Liberal Democrat MP Victoria Collins, who wants to write about my work to the Secretary of State for Innovation, Science, Technology, or whatever it is. So I'm in a real old tangle, and what I'm learning isn't to sort of get distressed, but to hyper reason, really, really sort of reflect. If I'm sitting down trying to rest, I'm thinking up ideas and reflecting on everything.
Continuously. And when he, no, excuse me, can I just add to that? When he says about reasoning and reflecting, he's doing that to the rate of like 20 to 23 hours a day.
And so if I'm resting or if I'm active, I'm still thinking, and that's causing disassociation and amnesia in a different way. So it's all a bit endless, and I'm just wondering how this year I can how I can be seen as a bit more of a whole of a person by collecting all the different points of view from the different systems that's captured insights into my medical record over time, rather than just the consistent record that was recorded by the electronic patient system, which doesn't reflect my experience.
Yeah.
So that's
well,
where
like I say, we can't really diagnose anyone and say you got this, you got that, and you got other. We're just out here to support people that are in a crisis.
He's not asking you for a diagnosis.
So I'm not
He's
in
asking, do you know any organisation that might be able to help him?
Yeah.
Because it's being dismissed, his childhood trauma,
Yeah.
like it's a lie, and it's not a lie.
Yeah, but also my crisis today, I was just saying to NAPAT, the National Association for People Abused in Childhood, I phoned up and I said, thank you very much for saving my life back in 2013. Yeah. And I'm not in that type of crisis, but obviously we're not going to be homeless because we're in social housing, but we're in a financial crisis with the way a computer's used to try and calculate migration to universal credit, and it can't come up with the correct numbers. It's very hard for me to work it out. So it all goes fuzzy weird. And at the same time, I've forgotten what I was going to say. My crisis is that I can't spend another 4 months like I have the last 4 months. If Maddie tells you what it's like, you see me at the computer for how long?
For up to 23 hours a day.
Yeah, trying to reason to try and end the sort of endless ongoing distress. So I can just sort of do what Maddie's doing at the moment, just relaxing on the bed playing a game.
Which is what I've adapted to doing whenever he's on the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't.
I just don't understand where they get these numbers from either, to be quite honest with you.
Who's that? Universal Credit or?
Yeah, I don't understand it.
Oh, well, what it is they get different information at different points in time, try to calculate it like data points, but it just resolves with the binary logic of the system coming up with silly numbers.
Oh, okay.
So that's the way it works. If we go to our payments, it says your payment for this month is £187 for Amanda and Lucas, we'll receive in 2 days' time. And they assessed that in April, and Mandy phoned them and they said, yes, they've made a mistake and recalculate it. They said we're entitled to £2,400, looking at it now. They were deducting £2,200 to leave us with £187. They were assessing Manda, for example. They said the amount we'll use to work out your universal credit, Amanda, is £0. And then for me, they didn't repeat the same line. They said earnings from your employer is £784. Now, bearing in mind we had stopped payments of employment and support allowance, they went on to say because we're in receipt of
first £411.
No. Listen, one sec. They said in the report, although we're supposed to be going on to ESA and they've stopped onto Universal Credit and they've stopped employment and support allowance, they've calculated that they need to deduct £609.05 from Amanda and Lucas's entitlement because we're on receipt of employment and support allowance, when the whole purpose of what they're trying to calculate is they're no longer paying that. And therefore they're trying to calculate what to pay in the absence of that being paid to us.
Yeah.
but it's come down as part of the deduction,
Yeah.
and that's
£1,200.
that's £1,200, which is half of the total amount of the deduction.
Yeah.
And then they've done things like they said money savings and investments, and we don't have any. So rather than just putting zero, £0 like that, the computer's actually put it as -0, which, if you know
Right.
maths and a computer is sort of binary and mathematics and all this kind of stuff, it's resolved it into a report saying there's such a thing as a -0, which isn't possible.
No, it means they've deducted 0. It says we have taken 0.
Well,
off
yeah, no,
your
that's
university
what
credit.
it's implying, but
Yeah.
there's no such thing as -0.
No.
If it's -0, then nothing's been
No,
minus.
it should just say 0, yeah.
It should just say 0 or null or nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it can't translate from a mathematical expression into a more humanistic way of explaining things.
Exactly.
And that's my work that I'm trying to do at the moment, and that's what I've been working on. Anyway, so so numbers are fun until they're applied. But
And we can't get a budget loan anymore because we're now on universal credit.
yes, and if we go back in the journal, Mandy started speaking on the 28th of April. She said, "Hello, we really literally have no food or any money left to live on. If possible, can we get an advance that's been approved today?" And there was no answer from an agent until the 9th of May, a few days ago, when they said, "I've asked that a case manager look at your case," and they respond by the 12th, which is the day, and they haven't done it. And then on the 9th, there was a second call, must have been, because the case manager was going to respond to you on the 13th. So has a case manager contacted you?
Today, yeah.
They did, and they told you that
They told me that all the figures are correct.
all the figures are correct, and I
Yeah.
couldn't earn 784.
Yeah, that we're only allowed to earn £411 as a couple, even though I can't work.
So I'm only allowed to earn £205 a month. But I can receive savings. So if my manager at work gave himself a bonus because he owns the company, transferred the money to his friend, and his friend gave me the money, it would appear in my account as savings, and I'd be allowed to have a sum equivalent to my total annual salary of, say, I don't know, £7,000 or £8,000 in my account whilst receiving full benefits from universal credit. So the way the system works logically isn't the way that humans work. And of course, we would say that's cheating the system, but to a business person or to a politician, that's known as expenses, if you see what I mean.
All right.
So it's endless conversation. But anyway,
Sorry for ranting.
Okay.
But
yeah, thank you so much. Is there
All right. No problem.
is there anyone you think we can speak to or talk to or can help me articulate what I'm trying to say back to reply back to Graham?
Well, maybe I'm just trying to think of that. Have you tried Citizens Advice? They're pretty good at writing
No, I
letters and
haven't.
stuff like that.
The trouble is they'd have to spend, listening to me like you have, they'd have to spend like 20 appointments slots listening to me, trying to understand what I'm saying to be able to write a letter on my behalf.
Right. Okay.
So that's my trouble. I'm trying to sort of narrow down what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. I can't put it in words to help him see. I kind of need other
No.
people to write, and I need the neurology department to write to Graham. I need the I need the nurse who witnessed me in a stupor on the critical care team to write, but she's not allowed to. She's a nurse, not a doctor, etc., etc. I need the DVLA to write to him to say we've held the correct record and diagnosis for him since the beginning of your record began, but they're not allowed to. No one can see each other's.
Well, aren't they allowed
systems.
to do that then?
Well, Graham's not allowed to write to the DVLA and ask for my medical assessment. He's not allowed to write to... Well, the neurology nurse isn't allowed to write to Graham and diagnose me, saying that it was a dissociative stupor.
She's a nurse, not a doctor.
Dr. Donahue, who referred me to the nurse, back to the nurse, has discharged me to the GP. At the GP, they don't have a standard GP for me. It's like a pool of GPs. and none of them know me because I've only ever seen them in every now and then,
It's like a lucky dip.
and I see a different one every time over the course of the last 7-8 years.
Yeah, it's like a lucky dip.
Yeah, that's nothing unusual there.
Yeah, exactly. So whichever way the system works and flows, it never arrives to the point where people go, "Oh, of course Lucas knows he's got amnesia. He would do, wouldn't he? Imagine having amnesia, as Lucy Leonard reported, global amnesia to the extreme that she tested me in. Of course he knows he's got amnesia, like someone knows they've got dementia, or someone who's caring for them, in my case it's Mandy, is fully aware that I have it. And of course I know I've got trauma. Imagine having complex trauma. Of course you know in your human experience when you're that traumatized.
Yeah.
So
Lucas, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to
I know.
go now.
Yeah.
But, yeah. All right, then.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. So from that conversation, I phoned back the crisis line later on because I realised how to go about what I needed to do. So I phoned them back and said, please would you thank the lady that I had spoken to at length. And she said, oh, that's nice, I'll go and do that. I can't find that recording. But I then went off and worked out what I needed to do in the medical system. And then I started finding Lowry and working out who was who and so forth, and began to piece together my story. So thank you very much to the Crisis Mental Health team for being like NAPAC and listening.